Hello. It's been a week since the end of GB Hidden Cup 2, and I think it would be a, I thought it would be a good idea to document my feelings on the event um, now that some time has passed since its conclusion, and try to have a retrospective on how I think things went, what went well, what went wrong, if there were any things I would do differently, any lessons learned, but also a chance to reflect on positive aspects of the event and talk about things with the benefit of some hindsight as well. So let's get right into it. I want to start by talking about the general feelings I have now that a week has passed and my thoughts on the event as a whole. I'm very happy with how the event went. And I think it was a really good event for the GB Discord to tie everyone together. There were obviously things I would like to have changed about the way certain things turned out. We'll come to those throughout the course of this retrospective, but overall, very happy. I think the players who made it to the main event represented essentially the top players, the who's who of the top players in the UK, and hiding them behind hidden aliases. Only Pete got all the guesses right, so I think it showed that it was a really interesting tournament to have that gimmick on. I think obviously some communities it wouldn't necessarily be that interesting to have a hidden cup because there might not be enough players at a certain level to make that an interesting tournament. I think this was a really interesting tournament with the hidden cup aspect. Obviously it's the second iteration, but yeah, I think it was a really good chance to use that hidden cup gimmick aspect, and regardless of that, the quality of the games was really good. Some very long series, and yeah, congratulations again to Hallis, the eventual winner, but he had a very testing time to get there, having to go through Game 5 and Game 7 against Dave and Boo. So yeah, very happy with how things turned out, and we'll come to the bits I'd like to change later on. So one of those things being the map pool. I think going forward, I would like to spend a lot more time on map testing and confirmation that the maps in the map pool of the tournament are interesting to watch, fun to play, and reliable and safe from an administration point of view. Obviously, the headlines will be attracted towards Amazon Tunnel and islands in the pool. I think the island script universally is disliked. And I think Dave's video really opened my eyes to the fact that it wasn't suitable for any event to have a script like that. I think we can do better. So whether or not whether you just want to get rid of islands altogether as a water map is one thing, but even in tournaments using islands, I think there's better island scripts out there. So yeah, that will definitely not be happening again, and I apologize for that. The Amazon Tunnel also was included as a bit of a meme. I personally really enjoyed watching Amazon Tunnel games. I'm not sure of the general feedback, presumably because the majority of viewers were GB Discord members, right? I would imagine that the inclusion of Tunnel was popular, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think the other maps in the map pool were generally quite safe. They were allocated on criteria: open, closed, nomad, chaos, and I think that's good. So yeah, wouldn't change too much about that other than obviously a fairer islands gen. And I think, just to touch on that once more, I think it was a horrendously unlucky generation. We had either islands games in the tournament which were nowhere near as bad as that one, so it was unfortunate to have that happen in the main event in game 1 of what would be a game 5 series, but that doesn't excuse the fact that the map is not fit for purpose anyway. I hope that is a fair I hope that's a fair assessment of the situation. Qualifiers. I really liked having qualifiers in the event. I think it's healthy. It did mean more work for mostly myself. I don't think it meant much more work for Dagaust, which we'll come on to later. And I liked the fact we had 4 invitees and 12 qualifiers, because it did just cut down a little bit on that volume of games to be cast. I didn't cast every single qualifier set, but I cast pretty much all of them, and I really liked the fact that I had a variety of co-casters, especially casting with main event players, either confirmed or, in the case like Fangita, right? So someone who realistically would be very upset not to make it through to the main event. And that was really good. Obviously, they can't cast with me in the main event itself because they might be casting on their own game, which should just be impossible. So I think that was really good. And I don't know if it contributed, presumably it contributed to, what do we have, 48 signups, which I think is great. It meant that most of the regulars and some non-regulars signed up for the tournament. So yeah, I think that was really, really good. So on to casting then. I liked the casting with main event players, like I said, in the qualifiers. For the main event, I really, really liked working with Paradox. And I think having that partnership with a single person throughout the course of the event keeps the narrative consistent. We improved our cast. I think we improved our cast a lot as the tournament went on. I was quite shaky, I thought, at the beginning. Paradox obviously has more experience than me, and I think carried the earlier sets. But I hope you would agree that as the tournament went on, I improved. I feel like I improved, whether you agree or not. I feel like I improved in my casting quality, and I really enjoyed working with Paradox, like I say. So that was great, and I would very happily do that again if Paradox is interested in that. So my role as admin, this one I think I'd like to talk about because the Hidden Cup tournament is a very unusual one from an administration point of view, which I think also contributed to some of the, well, you could argue controversy, but really just poor decisions, issues, I guess. How about that? Issues down the line. There was always 1 degree of separation between the player going to Dagaust, going to myself, Paradox, Nihilus, as the administration team. I think it probably would be healthier, and this obviously is what happens for the real Hidden Cup, where you have T90 as the caster, right? And then there is an administrator, which I believe is historically Robo, right? And Robo would do, I assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but presumably the heavy lifting is entirely done on the administration side, and T90 gets the Rex and just casts them. But maybe T90 has more involvement in that. I'm not sure, but I feel like having the Dagaust role have more agency to make decisions on the fly would be healthier, because it's just so impossible to. It's very difficult to administrate anything when you can't know all the details. You don't want to spoil things that sets are being live at a certain time, this, that, and the other. So, yeah, it's just an awkward situation. I don't think it helped the integrity of the tournament. So, yeah, wasn't the ideal solution. And that brings us on to Dagaust role. So, I think Dagaust, well, Dagaust was a real hero, and without him, obviously you need someone to do that role, but without specifically Dagaust, who had a very incredible work ethic and desire to get things done and get things done well, the whole thing falls apart. So I'm incredibly grateful to Dagaust for his role in the event. I think it's a lot of hard work, and it's important that someone who does that role is able to they have to make some decisions themselves and know, handle things, because they are going to be that first point of contact, and some of the stuff which players might say to the Dagaust role are not suitable to be relayed back up to me as a caster or someone else as a caster or administrator, and you have to make that call on what you think is worth saying, what you think is not worth saying. Maybe if there's a situation about someone doesn't have the correct res and the game is being played live, you just make that decision on the fly. That's kind of what I'm getting at with the my roles admin thing. Like, maybe if the map spawns incorrectly, you are on the spot and saying, hey guys, restart game because the map spawned incorrectly, and the caster never has to know about that interaction. Dagaust also did the video for the hype trailer. He did the reveal video, which I think was an amazing success. That was a 20-ish minute long video, which flew by in felt like 5 minutes, and kept everybody guessing throughout the whole tournament And like I say, Pete was the only person who got all 16 guesses right. So yeah, just want to give the floor a bit to Dagast because I think he did great. I think his role's very hard. So yeah, don't underestimate the work that Dagast put in, and I'm sure you're not. So bug abuse. This one I think I can cover quite quickly. It was a failing on my part to not know about this gate through the diagonal wall thing. As people have said, diagonal walls behave very weirdly in Age of Empires, and I think, as Happy himself acknowledged, it's a difficult position. Without anything written down in the handbook, it's an awkward one, and probably can't be classed as well. I mean, obviously, I'm not sure what Kathy. I don't want to put words in Kathy's mouth, but I think without a clear ruling saying this is a bug which must not be used, it's difficult to retroactively, certainly, go back and annul the result of that game or replay the game. So the result probably has to stand. However, I think it would be good in future events to have things like that, edge cases, clearly spelled out in the rulebook, and what is or isn't allowed. Back in the day, straggler tree hopping was a clause in every rulebook. I think that's been patched out now. It doesn't come up in handbooks, as far as I can tell. Not seen people talk about straggler tree hopping at all. But yeah, that's an example of a clear case where it's like, this is allowed, this is not allowed. Having one of those for every single bug or occurrence in the game. Like, in fact, one of the example would be the galleon that just zoomed into the, I think it was Boo versus Hallis. One of Boo's galleons just ended up in Hallis's woodline on islands. Obvious bug. My preference would be that the player delete the galleon if that happens. But you know, what if they don't delete the galleon? It kills 15 villagers. It's a really awkward situation, right? It's not spelled out in the rulebook. I don't know. Administrating an Age of Empires 2 tournament is going to involve case-by-case decisions. That said, trying to minimize those, or at least making them, like in the case of the Galleon one, that I think would be universally classified as a bug. So for the ones which are more contentious, having those split one side or the other prior to them occurring would be very, very beneficial. So yeah, that's what I want to say on that. New civs, I'm happy we didn't use new civs. Don't think people missed them. I certainly didn't miss them per se. I guess it helps that they're not actually that inspiring. But I want to just mention that in this review because I think it was a decision to make. Obviously in Warlords, we had the Georgians and Armenians allowed. And, well, people didn't seem to find much joy with the Armenians. And with Georgians, there was just some drama because of the Monaspa bug. And whether or not Viper should use it and so on. So, yeah, didn't seem to blow anyone's socks off in Warlords. And I think the game has got plenty of civs that I don't really mind not using them, and I think it was right to not have the risk that they would be super broken or something like that on release. So happy with that decision. Alias accounts, I think we had a great set of alias names. they're a bit safer than last time, right? We had no Nigel Farage or anything like that. But yeah, there's plenty more characters from GB Culture to do for a future event if there was one. I think it was a really good set of aliases, and obviously it was kind of cool to see the pantomime villain of James Corden win the whole thing, because it was just an interesting dynamic on the whole thing. So I really like that, and I think we did well with the aliases this year. Interview, just want to quickly say that I think I'll just do a bit of interview prep prior to next year. I don't think I particularly got the most insight out of Hallis, especially after you're tired after the end of the whole tournament, after the end of a final. Not necessarily thinking of the best questions to ask. So having some written down beforehand might be good, and just having an idea of what is a good interview question as well. I'm sure there's courses on that, so yeah, might be interested just to have that in my mind. If I am going to interview people, it'd be worth doing it properly. My future events, I'm going to host Training Grounds 3 next year, which I think will probably be the final one. Haven't got anything planned after that. I have ideas, but nothing concrete. And the future of this event, I would very much like to have another iteration of this next year. It feels kind of Christmassy. And yeah, I think the format was great. Would love to do it again. I hope you all enjoyed watching. And I hope you all enjoyed watching this video. I feel a bit awkward doing it. Talking to the camera is not something I'm particularly accustomed with, but I think it's good at the end of a project or event to reflect on how you think the event went and do this kind of retrospective. So thank you very much for watching, and let me know what thoughts you have about the event, if you agree with things I've said or not. Okay, thank you.